Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we're going to be looking at how we can control our own character, how we can customize the mesh, and fix a bug in the camera movement. Let's dive in and see how this is done. So let's look at customizing this character away from this boring default mannequin. Now, you might be tempted to go ahead and just customize the character here in the scene, but I would recommend that you don't do that. Instead, that we create a blueprint child class off of this third-person character. And the way we can do that is by going over into the details pane and selecting the blueprint button and clicking the Create Child Blueprint class. So that allows us to add our own modifications on top of the character class that we've already brought in. So I'm going to call mine the BP underscore third person character. And I'm going to put this at the root of our content folder. So I'll click on the path and select content and then click OK. And then we're going to go ahead and click select, and that will open up our BP third person character and allow us to modify it. Now, one thing you will notice if you go ahead and play in the main level is that it doesn't actually start using our character. It spawns in its own character here, and that's because we've got a player start. Let's go ahead and delete that player start. But even if we do that, it's not enough to make us use the character we brought into the level. To do that, we have to signal to the engine that's the character we want to use for our player 0. So if we go over to the blueprint for a second here, we're going to go into the details pane and search for auto possess player. And here it's currently set to disabled. I want to select player 0. And that tells the engine that this character should be possessed automatically, should be controlled automatically by player 0. So let's go ahead and save that, go ahead and play in the main level. And now you can see that I have got the character. His arm looks a little bit funky there because we're using the wrong mesh. And I can't move left and right with my mouse. So let's sort out the left and right thing first. Now, the reason for this is that our inputs are slightly different to this character than those required or assumed by this starter kit. So what we need to do is edit the casual character's blueprint. So we're going to go into the content folder, the casual character folder, the blueprints, then we're going to open the third person character. So this is a different blueprint to the BP third person that we've created off the back of it. And you'll notice in here that there are a couple of compiler errors, and you can click on the little looking glass or the little symbol next to the looking glass to find where these are. You can see that they're related to the turn rate axis event, which is basically how our turning has been set up. Now, we don't need to go into too much detail about what this is. You can see it's an event. It happens whenever you try and turn the mouse or you turn a controller. And it is currently set up to something that is not configured for our project. So what we need to do is right-click in an empty space and search for turn. And you will find that there are some events here. There is an axis event called turn right. Rate and turn right. We need the turn right rate at the top here to replace this current event. And then we can move the pins that it's connected to by clicking Control and dragging it onto the new pins to connect up to the new event. Then we can delete the event that has a warning attached to it, move the old one in place. And then there's one more warning for one called turn. We can right-click in an empty space again, search for turn, find the event called turn right, which we're going to replace it with. Control-click on the pins to move them over to the new event, delete the old, and move it into place. So that's just updated this blueprint so that it works with the control scheme configured in the project. And if we go ahead and hit play now, you will notice that we can rotate the camera around and move as we would expect. So I'd like to challenge you to customize your character. You're going to do this by editing your BP third person character. So that's this one here, and particularly the mesh component in the components pane. You're going to select that, and you're going to be using the details pane over here to select a skeletal mesh of your choosing. So go ahead and change the mesh to something that you prefer. Try out the different ones and see which one you want to use. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, welcome back. So with this skeletal mesh property available, which again, we go to the mesh in components, then to the details pane, down to the mesh section, and there's a property called skeletal mesh. And then what you want to do is click the drop down and have a little scroll through here to have a look at what meshes are available. Now, some of them come from the starter kit and some of them come from the character that we have brought in. So I can select, there are a couple of pre-made, fully formed characters in here. One is just in his underwear, and then there's some with different clothing on. I'm going to select number 3, and you can see here it comes in with some pretty cool looking sunglasses, and we can go into our level and see that that character has indeed been updated over here too. So if I go ahead and play, I can now play as this character. His run animations work correctly, his jump animations work just fine, and the camera movement works as well. Fantastic. Let's dive on to the next lecture.